Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Morning Briefing here on NoFilter.net, Believe Podcast Network, and various other sources and platforms where we carry the show. I'm Jeff DeForest, along with one Mike Lubitz, and it's always great to have your opinion validated over and over again, Lubie, is it not?
Yes.
When every time something happens, it just reinforces the point that you've been making for the longest period of time against popular opinion, 1,000% opposed to what everybody wants you to believe. And it happened again yesterday. I'm glad the Olympics got underway before the opening ceremonies because it proved our point once and for all that soccer in America should be banned.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that in just a second. Now, maybe you were betting on a game and you thought the Americans had a chance. Obviously, you need to regroup if that's the case, and you can do so by signing up on BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything when it comes to online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics all the way through baseball, Formula One, racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to the online casino. You can play poker, you can play blackjack, you can take part in one of the over 150 slot games they make available. Head to the website today and get in on the action. Use the promo code BLEAV, that's BELIEVE, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. BetOnline. The game starts here. Well, it certainly stops here, Lubie. We've been calling for the ban of soccer in the United States of America for a long, long time. We can't do shit in this game. Is it not apparent? Is it not obvious? And so the glamour and all of the drama, you wait 4 years for the Olympics to come around. We have the U.S. men's national team. They were just immersed in all kinds of controversy, were they not? Where they fired their coach.
Yep.
And they got, what was the guy's name? Bell Hader or something? I don't know. Whatever it was. Berhalter, yeah. So he is relegated to obscurity once again, and we have a new head coach who I couldn't tell you who took the job. Did anybody actually take this job?
They haven't. I don't think they picked. I think they have an interim coach. They don't have an actual
Imagine
hire.
this. We have a shit sport that nobody should play in the first place, and we're horrible at it. And on top of that, we go into a major international competition. Are the Olympics considered illustrious enough to compete with these other bogus tournaments they have all the time?
Behind the World Cup and the Euro, but I mean, as you saw yesterday, like Argentina has a decent team there. Like
they lost though.
Sort of care.
Yeah, they lost to Morocco, and then of course again illustrating my point that soccer should be banned, maybe not just in America, but worldwide, people. And think about this for a second. You had the Americans absolutely horrendous in losing 3-0 to France. And then Morocco beats Argentina. Holy Lionel Messi. I know Messi wasn't part of the team, but wow. It's amateur hour out there. They're showering the field with couscous. A riot breaks out. Totally fucked up. I mean, it's a sport only the lunatic fringe. I don't even know if the lunatic fringe is a fair characterization because I think it's embarrassing to the fringe. Only flat out lunatics would embrace this game. If you're watching this stuff, people, I really feel your pain. But anyway, the Olympics got underway with some soccer competition. I don't know if they had anything else. Was there rhythmic gymnastics or anything, Lubie?
I don't know. I don't think as of yet.
Cornhole, is that now an Olympic sport? Cornhole. Some fat kid with a beanbag firing at a little hole on a board that he had nothing to do with a piece of wood, so he cut a hole in it and said, hey, let's see if we can throw a beanbag through there from 20 feet away. Exactly. Incredible. But let's hope for better action and better results from the American contingent that is there if you're watching us in the United States. And if you're a fan of the European teams or some other country around the world, you're probably looking at this and saying, you know what? That DeForest guy on the morning briefing with Mike Lubitz, he's absolutely right. Soccer, along with country music, should be banned in America. All right, natural interest. All of these training camps open up around the National Football League. Lubie, is there a storyline of any nature that you or I mean, I know you're zeroed in a little bit on the Dolphins since we
Tua thing, yeah.
come from South Florida. I'm not sure how that Tua situation is going to be resolved. We've been saying this all along, and we did get this from our friend, the agent to the Stars, Brett Tessler, that nothing happens in the National Football League until it's absolutely necessary. Now, is it absolutely necessary? I think you're sort of seeing a little bit of the Dolphins' opinion, and they're very much in the same situation. They're not quite in the same situation as the Giants were last year with Daniel Jones, when they finally caved and forked over $160 million for a guy that they would be dying to get rid of, right?
Yes.
If the Patriots would have taken their call for that number 3 pick in the draft, they would have moved up and drafted a quarterback.
Yes.
But instead, they stayed at number 6. They got this kid Neighbors, right? Didn't they get the wide receiver Neighbors?
Yeah.
That kid's going to be good, I think. No, are we wrong about that? How's the scouting report on this guy?
I don't know about the scouting report, but he's legit. That kid's good.
Yeah. So, the Dolphins are in sort of that kind of spot, right? Where it's debatable whether you want to give the guy all of that money. I think Tua's acquitted himself a lot better than Daniel Jones has to this point in time in terms of being a guy who not only fits the system that you have with this lunatic Mike McDaniel, but also, can throw the football. He's not necessarily the greatest deep passer. He doesn't have to be because his guys Waddle and Tyreek Hill are open by 20 yards. It's one of those things where it's all the old Steve Spurrier fun and gun offense where you got 4 guys waving 60 yards down the field. Here, and they're all wide open. You would have to be Stevie Wonder to miss these guys, and Tua is better than that. So I don't know. It's an interesting equation. But looking around, a lot of interesting stuff going on. But the thing that stole the show, Lubie, I don't know if you caught this, the new haircut and hairdo of one Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. I thought for a second, I'm like, no, don't tell me Pete Davidson is now taking over the NFL as well. He looked like Pete Davidson. He did the white hair thing or the yellow hair, and it's very short. This was a guy that you thought looked just like, didn't he look like Timothy Robbins in Shawshank Redemption? For the most part, he had the same kind of style to him. You could almost hear Morgan Freeman saying, "I miss my friend Andy," every time they. You saw a Joe Burrow press conference, but you didn't see this new haircut because it definitely stole the show. It was freakier than Aaron Rodgers in Egypt. Stranger than Jim Harbaugh's observations about being back in the NFL. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. And even Brian Daboll's a massive weight loss. Daboll is slimmed down. He looks like Jack LaLanne now. And we know that this is not a good thing, Lubie. You know this from experience. I've pointed it out to you, and then you jumped on board. I give you credit. You saw this just like I did, clear as it could possibly be. As if you're a fat coach, don't lose weight because you'll start to lose games.
Exactly.
Tony Sparano, big fat blob of a human being with flab rolling over his belt, and you're thinking this guy's going to eat himself into becoming the tuna. Not the fish, but the parcels. And sure enough, he starts running stairs in the stadium. He goes on a diet, and he's eating fucking broccolini every day. And next thing you know, he can't win a game. He's out of a job and ends up becoming the offensive coordinator, a very failed offensive coordinator with the New York Jets. Who else? Rex Ryan, same thing. Rex Ryan, a fat guy. He's winning. He's swashbuckling. He's cursing everybody out. He's in your face. He's the pride of New York City, and of course, around the country. There is a very divisive, polarizing opinion of what Rex Ryan was doing back then. But for the most part, the football fans, the bloodthirsty football fans, they love this guy. What? He sent a guy out there on the practice field just to start a fight so he could cut a quarterback. But then all of a sudden, he loses weight. What happened, man? Buffalo Bills, he takes him right down the drain. He finds his way into broadcasting, and outside of having bigger teeth than Secretariat, I don't know. What distinguishing characteristics he has that compare. I don't mind him on these analysis shows. I think he's okay. He's not as good as I think he could be, but they have to let him turn it loose, don't they? He'd be better on a podcast where he could curse, no?
Yep.
You would think so. But nonetheless, did he not lose his mojo, Lubie, once he lost all that weight?
Oh, yeah, Rex Ryan was a whole different dude. Look, Sparano, God rest his soul, was a very different guy after he lost weight. It seems like athletes, coaches, when they lose that weight, they lose some of their fire, some of their zest.
Turn into an aging Joe Biden, right? Where you're just hoping his head didn't hit the table before he finished reading the speech that everybody is hailing as being brilliant. Which we would say anything but Trump here on this show. But was it apparent that Biden was kind of losing it a little bit? Yeah, of course it was. So, and they both turned into like shells in themselves. Rex Ryan didn't have the bravado that he had. Tony Sparano was totally ineffective, and you realized that's why he was the offensive line coach.
Exactly.
You can't say that, though, because what was Dan Campbell not coaching offensive line before they made him Or
tight
is he
end.
a tight ends guy
He's
with the
tight end.
Detroit Lions?
Oh,
Detroit just hired him, out of the blue there, but
see,
he
with the
wasn't an assistant there.
Dolphins tight ends, and then he was on New Orleans staff for a long time, and I think tight ends are tight ends adjacent.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, man, I don't know. In general, is it good? There probably are many examples of offensive line coaches who have transitioned to head coaches and become very effective. Although, we have a couple of examples of that being the direct opposite of the truth. Because we had Smoke and Joe Philbin here with the Dolphins, former offensive line coach. Well, I guess he became one after. Is that
Yeah,
what happens to failed head coaches? They become offensive line coaches. There you go. That's the equation. Anyway, it was interesting all the way around. You had a couple of holdouts going on in the National Football League, but in general, everybody's going to the Super Bowl. That's what I got out of day one and the coverage of day one. This I don't know that I can get used to. Dick Enberg's going to be rolling over in his grave, huh, Dick? There was a time where, like, if you were doing a sports talk show, Lubie, and somebody called up and asked about some obscure college, maybe it was like Bowling Green State.
yeah,
And if you didn't know what conference they were in, then you had to consider yourself not capable of doing the job,
yeah.
right? You had to know where they played, what the record was, all of this stuff. How is USC? Dick Enberg's literally got to be rolling over in his grave. How is USC in the Big Ten? I can't. I know this happened. We know about the complete evaporation and extinction. Well, do they still have a Pac-12? I think it's down to 2 teams. No, in the Pac-12. Who could
There's two.
possibly follow what's going on?
It's not a conference anymore. They have Oregon State and Washington State still remain. I don't know what they call it,
The
but
Pac-Deuce.
the Pac something.
Well, we know who's going to be in a conference championship game then, I guess.
Yeah.
The 2 teams that are left in the league. But, I mean, can you fathom how – I understand that there is a lot of weird geography sometimes, especially with all of this realignment that's taken place now and the complete juxtaposition of like a zillion different teams and concepts when it comes to conferences and alignments. When Miami went into the Big East, it was a little incongruous, was it not? I mean, you had Miami. They were the only team within like 1,500 miles of the next team. But at least they were on the East Coast. What the fuck is USC doing in this Midwest Conference, the Big Ten, which now has how many teams? Are they up to 16 teams also? I know the SEC is, Lubie.
I think they are. Yeah.
And then adding to the chaos, too, did you see this story? I think her last name is like Catalan.
Okay.
A softball pitcher, a women's softball pitcher from Stanford, I think, transfers to Texas Tech and gets over $1 million annually in NIL money.
Oh wow! Really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
The hell? I see some babe or something. Well, what the heck? Not that you have to be. I don't mean to characterize it in that fashion. I'm sure she's very talented, but
that's
is women's softball? Is that that kind of value where you would lure a player away from another team?
That's insane.
It's not even free agency. You don't even have to be. Everybody's a free agent. It's great. The players went from having no rights whatsoever to being in complete control of everything that's happening in college sports. But I never thought I would see that, where the NIL thing, shortly after it's really kind of taken hold and become the fabric of what's going on in college sports, would impact women's college softball. Crystal Busto, man. I don't know if she would have been worth that kind of money. Remember her? She was like the Bambino, very large framed woman. And, she came up and she looked like she was literally in like a beer league softball thing where the guy that works for the steel company gets up there. Unbelievable. But, that's a little bit hard to picture. The USC Trojans. I mean, holy, legacy of running backs and all of the great players that were there and great coaches over the years, John McKay, John Robinson, or Jim, and they're in the Big Ten. It's almost unfathomable. Unfathomable.
It's weird is what it is.
Very strange. Baseball, how is Aaron Boone not fired today? Aaron Boone. I mean, if George is around, Steinbrenner, he's gone, right? He would have already visited the grave of Billy Martin and tried to hire him back again.
100%.
My God, what a tailspin. I mean, these guys are in denial, the Yankee fans. And it's true. Luis Severino of the Mets, who used to be a Yankee, made the comment. It's been all over the place. I don't know if you saw that, where he says that, in sort of broken English, that the Yankees only have 2 hitters. And that's true.
Yeah, it sort of is.
They have Soto and Judge, and they're both hitting like 309 with big power numbers as well. And then after that, like the rest of the team is hitting 222 collectively. It's ridiculous. And now I don't know that that's Boone's fault. Is he any more of a buffoon in the eyes of Yankee fans than he was in the past? Not sure. But
No, always sucked.
and they thought they wanted to get rid of him for the last since he was hired. Everybody was like, "Who the fuck is this guy? What kind of moron would do this?" I mean, he could mess up a game if he had, Louisiana Lightning in his prime and Mariano Rivera to come in the ninth.
Exactly.
But and nonetheless, after being drubbed by the Mets yesterday, 12-3, and losing all 4 games to the Mets, is that like Michigan losing to Ohio State every year, or the other way around? Where Ryan Day he could win 100 games and lose 5 over a 5-year span, and they still want to fire him because he lost all of his games to Michigan.
Yes.
I don't know that matters so much in baseball. I mean, there's just too many games, but not a pretty scene there. And you'd think that the plank would be lengthening, or at least I guess it would be shortening with Aaron Boone. But I haven't. There was a little bit of a whisper of, hey, maybe it's time for this guy to go before the All-Star break. But he fired off on the press yesterday. He was very upset with what was going on around the team. Can we get the Marlins to stop winning, Lubie? Is it time to get a little nervous about our over-under bet?
I let them win. It's fine. I mean, they're not going to get close to the over-under.
28 games under 500 as play would begin in the major leagues today. They've been taking on the Orioles. They beat them 2 straight times, which is kind of weird. They've been showcasing Jazz Chisholm, who all of a sudden is getting key hits at all junctures of ball games. And, I mean, we're waiting for the big sell-off here, but is that betting? See, that's the problem with being a degenerate gambler. We have the biggest of locks at this point, and you still have to schwitz it out until the money's in the bank. No, Libby, I mean, you've seen this many, many times. As soon as somebody thinks that they have something in the bag when it comes to gambling, all bets are off, my friend. All bets are off. One final note here, and it's common to think of all boxing promoters as being, corrupt, evil pricks.
Yes.
And Bob Arum certainly didn't have the persona and the largesse that Don King had, and Don King was always on these late night talk shows. You never saw Bob Arum doing any of that, even though he has a very dry, wry sense of humor. Bob Arum, who's still promoting fights and still the head of Top Rank Boxing, although our friend Brad Jacobs has become the CEO. But we mentioned the passing, I believe, on this program. I know we did on one of our others, of a boxer that I used to cover out in California named Richie Sandoval, who was in a brutal fight in 86 with a guy named Gabby Canizales, a world title fight. And he suffered a brain injury in that fight and was never the same. And he lived, I guess, we're talking about another 38 years. He passed away this week. And I didn't know this, though. I mean, for all the, negativity that's talked about boxing promoters in the game, I found out that Arum had paid Richie Sandoval a salary ever since he suffered this brain injury. And, it was sort of heartening to see because there was nothing really said about that. And, you never heard Arum say, yeah, well, I'm still paying Richie Sandoval.
No.
But for, in a game when we know, I mean, they can drop you tomorrow. I mean, you lose one fight, they're handing you a copy of the classifieds. Nice to see that there was that level of loyalty coming from a guy who most people consider to be just a hard-ass boxing prick.
Yeah.
For most of his career, a very successful career, but nonetheless, it was nice to see that somebody in the game had a heart. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thanks so much for being with us. Check out that Joe Burrow haircut, Libby. I think if you don't see Pete Davidson there, I don't know. You would literally think that some amazingly hot babe would be standing behind him, and you're asking yourself, this guy must have one large one, huh? I mean, they appeal to Pete Davidson to these
he looks weird.
International beauties. Unbelievable.
I don't know what he's doing there.
Oh, you see the haircut? Okay, good. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thanks so much. Hopefully, we've infused a little bit of life in your day as we will see you again tomorrow with another edition right here on No Limit. No filter. I'm thinking No Limit. I'm thinking about this whole artificial intelligence thing in betting. It's going to turn the biggest loser into winners on nofilter.net. Thanks for being with us. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you on the next edition of The Morning Briefing.